It's time we talk about Lahaina. I happen to have a very interesting background. I took a year of fire science when I was in my early 20s. I am a FEMA trained first responder. My special interest is space weather. I have 2 degrees in sustainability and study vulnerability assessments. I am a first responder for emergency events. I work as an energy program administrator, so I understand energy transmission and work with our utility a lot. So I happen to have this very interesting holistic outlook to be able to see these connections that maybe other people did. Oh, and I also worked in telecommunications for 3 years. So the night before the fires in Lahaina, I saw that there was a strong X-class flare, one of the first strongest of the cycle, and it had hit right next to Hawaii. And an X-class flare can temporarily dent our magnetic field, and which normally is fine, whatever, but there was a coronal mass ejection heading towards Earth that was earthbound, as you would say, from August 5th. And coronal mass ejection is what the sun spits out. That usually takes a few days to hit Earth, and it's full of plasma and other like high intensity energy. And solar flares are geomagnetic, like they're like quick little spits, it spits out in a magnetic field, and that can affect our communication systems. And so that's why when there's when there's X-class flares and things like that and coronal mass ejections, we can have beautiful auroras. But there was an event called the Carrington event 150 years ago, and we just so happened to have an X-class flare hit and then a coronal mass ejection that was earthbound. And it was right over Hawaii where there was a storm. And hurricanes often act as an energy vortex. So they'll pull in energy from the atmosphere, and normal wind, right, it isn't full of an electrical charge, but solar wind is, and it acts a lot like you couldn't really tell the difference. So it would just almost energetically charge the particles in our regular wind. And so coronal mass ejections, when they are if some of that plasma energy and solar wind came into our atmosphere because of a dent from an X-class flare, it could cause arcing on power lines, which is a plasma ball going across power lines or getting really hot on transformers. And if it's shooting out sparks, they get a little cooler, they can catch brush on fire. So it's very likely that there was a combination of electrical fires, of regular fires, and no communication because of the X-class flare. Well, there was 2 X-class flares actually. While the coronal mass ejection was hitting, another one came and hit Hawaii the following day in that area. Let me show you some. Here we go. Hold on. So here you can see from August 7th, there was an R3 level flare that occurred. As you can see, right, the area, there was a high frequency degradation over the sunlit side of Earth. And so that would completely knock out any sort of communications. And if that dented the magnetic field, which it can do temporarily, it can allow plasma that can, if there is aging infrastructure, or even not, it can overpower transformers and cause them to start malfunctioning and catching on fire. And plasma can burn, it melts metal, right? Plasma lasers are what they use to cut metal, and they actually use wood as stencils because it only chars it. Plasma can it's used on skin, it can petrify animals. So if there was a combination of plasma fire, regular fire, electrical fire, there wouldn't be one way to really put it out. And if the communications were down and nobody really looks at all of these things holistically, they might have not understood that that's what was causing that, especially if there's a hurricane, and the hurricane could have just been what would have pulled down the coronal mass ejection, solar flare, that, might not have been as magnetized, right? Because there was a hurricane, it was pulling it towards that area. And solar wind, right, is it acts a lot like regular wind. It's just electrically charged. And so we've seen, even in storms over the last couple of years, it looks like something pulled down entire power lines, but there's the wind and everything else isn't fucked up. The trees aren't down. It's just power lines. And that would be because of the magnetism, and with our magnetic field so that's probably what it was, not a attack. But yeah.